Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. Today, my special guest is Betsy Block, owner of B3 Coach. She serves as a coach and a catalyst to small and mid-sized nonprofits and the leaders and coaches who support them. She's been a chief coach catalyst for over 13 years in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she holds an MPP, a Master in Public Policy, and she's a certified coach by the International Coaching Federation. Welcome to the show, Betsy.
I'm so excited to be here.
I can't wait to hear this story. So tell us how you got to where you are today. And before the show, we talked about different roles that you've had. And we also talked about what a master in public policy is. So this is going to be very fascinating.
Sure. So I had a brief stint in the nonprofit sector before I realized that direct service was not the right role for me. And I got picked to come onto a team at a phone company, of all things, to work in their project management division, and spent from working at the phone company to then working at a software company, 7 or 10 years in telecommunications software development. And at some point realized, making great phone bills is not what my life is about. I need to do more. I'm meant to do more. I need to give and be of service. And in conversation with friends, I came to understand what a master's in public policy did and what one did with those things. And it was a way to be of service while also using all my analytical skills. And so that was a big milestone in my life, was realizing, gosh, I have these analytical skills, these synthetic skills, these ways of making people think, and there's a way to use that and be of service. So I worked in government, I worked in philanthropy, I worked in the nonprofit sector, and they took a lot of advantage of my analytical skills in the world of something called program evaluation, which is the measurement of effectiveness of the nonprofit or how it's achieving its mission. And what I became more and more aware of over time is that as much as nonprofit wanted to use this information, a lot of times what was getting in their way was culture. And so that next big milestone for me was making the leap from somebody who worked with data and worked with teams around using data to being somebody who worked with them on their organizational culture and helped them emerge and help them see and be okay with their challenges. And it wasn't a super fluid and easy transition. I had what I thought was my dream job at kind of a mediary organization that worked with nonprofits, but was kind of more like philanthropy. And I had some issues coming out of pregnancy and bringing my son into the world, and started saying, gosh, the best part of my job is when people think I have this fancy title, I must know something, and wanted to talk to me. And I thought, well, this career coaching thing sounds like fun. But it turned out the more I trained in coaching and the more that I showed up as coach in my other work, because I was still doing this program evaluation work, the program evaluation work got more interesting. And it took some time before that transitioned into being a systems and team coach and retraining and retooling. And once I had those light bulbs go off and really got into the systemic team coaching part of it, that's it. That's all I do now. That's where the magic lives, and really bringing these teams into the awareness of what they're doing and what they're saying to each other and how they exist. And that's where my heart's work is.
So within the culture, is your focus conflict resolution, or is it more broad?
It's more broad. I think I talk a lot about emerging management teams. What I've come to, the reason I talk about conflict is that in working with teams around organizational culture, it's inevitable that they need to relearn what conflict is and how to conflict effectively, how to conflict creatively. I think when you get to the point of conflict resolution, you've probably hit a toxicity or a butting heads point that you need to pull back from. I want to be more proactive with organizations and with teams and figuring out there's a really healthy organizational culture that prides itself on being able to be creative in the conflict and service of innovation. And so I find that no matter what the organizational piece is, being able to get to that point is a goal.
So what are the challenges that they're facing when they bring you in?
Well, some organizations are saying we're great and we're going to be better. And the parallel I give, I am in the Bay Area and I talk about the Golden State Warriors when they came out of their NBA championship year, or any championship team, really. Like if you talk to the Kansas City Chiefs right now after having just won the Super Bowl, they didn't come out and say, gosh, we're great, we're done. We're done. We've done all we can do. We're just going to be great and sit and be just like we are next year. Championship teams come out and say, we want to improve. We want to be better. There's still things that we're going to continue to work on. It's what champions do. And this is the parallel that I give to teams that I work with, is it's not just about working with teams that are struggling or have challenges to overcome. It's also about great teams that want to be greater, because that's what they do. They sit there and focus on continuous improvement. So if I'm talking about teams that are struggling, I tend to position it more as emerging. Every team is always emerging from something. And sometimes you're emerging from a change that's really rattled the organization. So in the nonprofit sector, a lot of times it's that a founder left, or there's a new strategic plan, or they've had some big financial change. They've had to make a programmatic shift. So there's a lot of reasons that those things come in. And yes, there are times where there's been a conflict. So maybe there was a lawsuit, or maybe there was somebody who left and left some really tough feelings with the team. So there are sometimes where they're emerging from some kind of a challenge or difficulty.
Well, I like all the different perspectives, right? It could just be for continuous improvement, or it could be because they're facing a challenge. So it sounds like there's many different opportunities to bring you in as a coach.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the questions I have here for you is, you're a very successful leader. Which 3 character traits do you think are the most instrumental to your success?
I think one that has really followed me through my career is my ability to do what I call synthesis. So a lot of my clients think that I have some crazy magical intuition. And I think, no, it's just that I can listen and hear the pieces that go together and help you hear what you're saying that goes together. So that magic of listening for the synthesis, of being able to kind of help people and teams weave things together. I think another thing that I bring is bravery, because I am a little bit fearless about what I will say, what I will observe, what I'll bring into a room. I know those elephants. I don't worry about myself when I'm with a team. I don't worry about saying the things. And it's come from a place of knowing what it is to bring that in and knowing the power that it gives back to the team. If I show up as my bravest self, it's such permission, and it helps people be unafraid of saying things like, I didn't know I could say that. like the first time I ever said to a team, was like, wow, this coaching really sucks right now. We're not getting anywhere. What do you think about that? I'm like, did she just say this sucks right now? Wow. And I think the third thing is my willingness to just make sure that we're being catalytic, make sure that we're driving into the point where people suck the air in between their teeth. Oh God, we're going there. And that excitement that comes with it, and knowing how to see and follow the energy with the teams that gets them into that space where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go there. That's a little exciting. Yeah, let's go there. So I think those are three of my skills.
I love them. So the first one's not as easy, right? It's listening, and you have to practice listening
Yeah.
skills. Do you have like a specific actionable step our listeners can take to maybe become a better listener or be a little bit more brave?
Yeah, I mean, some of the greatest tools in team coaching, not surprisingly, come out of things that people hear about in marriage counseling. Because at the end of the day, you're in a relationship and you're in a familial type thing. It works out that way. We pick up roles. And so one of the tools is something you talk about a lot in marriage counseling, which is repeating what the other person says. What I'm hearing you say is, and a lot of times, if you just listen and then you try to say your next thing, you haven't totally processed what the other person is saying. And so if you want to listen and repeat back what I heard you say is. And then if it's something that you think is wrong or you're not okay with, try to find the 2% of that you're willing to accept. Say, well, if there's a piece of this that I want to hang on to, if I buy that 2% of that is good, what's the 2% that I want to hear? So that's one. And another tool I'll say is always get back to your values. Always get back to what you share. When you're on a team, when you're working together, you come together, especially in the social sector, we're purpose driven, right? We're mission aligned. And when you come back to purpose and when you come back to mission, the how is just a how. But how are we standing shoulder to shoulder? And if I'm in the room with people, I'll have them stand shoulder to shoulder or imagine standing shoulder to shoulder, face the future together, face the mission together. And what's it like to be in that space of facing together what we're trying to solve, the mission, the values we're trying to uphold, and then come back to how does my idea, how does the piece that I care about serve that? How do we look for those pieces that go together? So that's a second tool that I often bring in with teams.
I've enjoyed listening to these tips. So you've done software, you've done policy, and you're a coach. What is your next milestone?
I think my next milestone is really becoming somebody who makes people love conflict. And the great creative, let's have our ideas merge and come together and innovate. And so I want to become a champion of that in the social sector. I think I'll still be a coach. That's part of that milestone. I know I'll still be a coach, but being a champion for stepping into creative conflict is a big milestone for me in the future.
I'm processing that. Hold on.
Are you one of my conflict averse friends that I have to that I have to bring into what's amazing about? Here's what I'm watching you. For those that are listening, Sheila's clutching her chest and like her breath has stopped, and she's like, "Oh God, not conflict." We have too often mistaken the definition of conflict, which is letting seemingly different ideas surface, with what happens when conflict goes south. The arguing, the fighting, the yelling, the standoffishness. That's destructive. That's toxicity. But conflict, just letting seemingly incompatible ideas surface between us and live and be in conversation and in fluidity with those, that piece, dissonance. There's a blog on my Medium page that's about consonance and dissonance. And I use the metaphor of music, which is, if we all agreed on everything all the time, imagine like 10 straight minutes of 10 violins playing the same note together at the same time. And just that monotonous, extended tone, which for maybe a minute or two is really beautiful, but I don't know that 10 minutes of it brings emotion and excitement and all that stuff. But if you think about Bohemian Rhapsody with Queen and the range of what that song goes through, there is a ton of musical dissonance in that, and it makes for incredible music. And that's innovation, and that's creativity. And there's some classical musical examples too, but I'm a 80s rock kid, so,
really resonated with me because now the way that I'm processing it is perspectives, or one of my favorite sayings, right? Let's just agree to disagree. So I understand it now. I just didn't understand it at first. Like, what? Like positive conflict? So yeah, you just managed to turn conflict into diversity, right? Like different opinions makes life more interesting. So
Exactly. Now you're breathing.
well, you've inspired.
Thanks.
Keep in mind that I'm repeating. You see, I'm processing and I'm repeating that conflict resolution could be positive.
Love it.
Well, how can my audience continue to follow your journey and learn more? Contact you.
Well, I'm Betsy Block on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. And then I have a Medium page as well. And I'll make sure to share those links with your listeners. And my website is b3coach.com. And I look forward to meeting your listeners.
Well, thank you so much. Now, do you play? I see a violin in the background.
Oh, that's a guitar.
Okay.
Really funny. I only play a handful of chords, but yeah, I do. I play a little bit and I keep it back there to keep myself accountable. So people will say, when are you going to play the guitar for me?
Next podcast, you're going to play the guitar for us.
Maybe that's my next milestone.
Play it now if you want. Yeah, you could do like the little jingle at the beginning of the podcast.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you so much. This
has been a treat. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.